killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
Okay.
Damn it, I'm really confused. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence, and he was dead when she hit the ground. I didn't see any cars. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on, and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. But whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now, and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big... real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Welcome to Outpost 31 Night Watch. This is your host, Will. I'm broadcasting from the furthest reaches of the United Reservation in the northeastern United States. We're going to be talking about stories and history of Bigfoot attacking and sometimes killing people. This is a very touchy subject, as 90% of stories only tell of a gentle giant. But there is a dark history that is hidden from us about these creatures. Some of the history of these attacks stems back hundreds if not thousands of years, pre-Columbus, in a time when North America was populated by First Nations people, as they call them today, Native Americans. But many cultures around the world also have traditional stories passed down over the ages of these creatures that resemble man, but are covered in fur and giant in size. These stories speak of creatures attacking and killing people, and sometimes kidnapping people, for which those people were never seen again. I will share some of these stories with you tonight, as well as theories I have. I have theories of why I believe this activity is not reported anymore, and why the mainstream media doesn't cover it. Relax, get a warm beverage, and prepare to be exposed to the world of Killer Bigfoot. In the 1930s, in a small fishing village of Portlock, Alaska, something strange and terrifying held the locals in an absolute state of terror. Portlock suddenly became a ghost town as the locals abandoned the booming town. With a large cannery operating in the area and plenty of jobs available, people still left the town, as something was killing and abducting people. The local Native American tribe, the Alutiiq, which has been in the area dating back some 7,000 years, had a name for this creature. They called it the Nantinaq, which means those who steal people. The reports of this creature date back all the way to the 1700s, when European settlers would have encounters with this creature. The creature was described as 8 feet tall, covered entirely in hair or fur. This creature was reported to have razor-sharp claws that could rip open a man with ease. Sometime during World War II, human bodies began appearing in rivers and lagoons. The human bodies were said to be torn apart. People in the local area began disappearing out of nowhere. One of the most documented bizarre reports in the area is of full-grown trees being ripped out of the ground completely and then turned upside down and pushed back into the ground. The trees oftentimes being at least 10 feet or taller. Many documentaries and news stories have covered this incredible and strange event. The local native tribes were well familiar with these events and would oftentimes warn hunters and visitors to the area that they should never travel into the thick forest or area mountains, as they may be attacked or just simply never return. In 2009, the Homer Tribune, a local newspaper, ran a story on the creature and interviewed a local elder named Melania Kell. Kell stated she was born in the area of Portlock and grew up hearing the stories of this creature. Kell stated that over time the locals became so scared of the thing hunting and attacking people that most just moved away. Eventually the village became a ghost town, as residents refused to go into the woods or even walk around the area. In 1905, a supervisor at the local cannery was quoted as saying, "All the native workers evacuated the area because of something in the forest. These workers, despite not many jobs available, did not return work until the next year." In 1973, a local retired school teacher told the Anchorage newspaper that a group of cannery workers went hunting in the local mountains near Portlock. The group of hunters were never heard from again. Search parties were sent out to locate the missing hunters, but no trace was found. Local rumors started circulating that mutilated bodies were found, torn apart and dismembered. The bodies were found in the local lagoon. It was believed that the rain had washed the remains down the mountain springs into the lagoon. In 1968, a goat hunter claimed while hunting in the mountains he was chased by a creature. This incidences that seem to be well documented. Apparently there was more than just, a few newspapers that covered the story and interviewed people. I know a bunch of documentaries on History Channel, stuff like that. They had episodes on this, and I think, a lot of podcasts and stuff like paranormal shows, they had covered this as well. One thing that I want to point out, though, is I did see long ago a documentary on this, and it was the trees thing being completely torn out with the roots, still intact. They weren't cut down, they were literally like just grabbing like if you grabbed a plant and just pull it right out of the ground, roots and all, and then, we're able to turn it upside down and then push it back into the soil. It's really weird to see that, and it was like this whole area that these huge trees, that was done to them. There never was any reasonable explanation for what was going on or how that was even physically possible for those, large trees to be ripped out like that and turned upside down. I know that they were looking around the local soil to see if, there was car tracks or, any kind of heavy machinery, but apparently the trees, being so close together in a small area, it was, there was no tracks, there was nothing showing that, some kind of machinery was involved. And on top of it, what kind of machine would do that? Would be able to rip a huge tree with the roots and everything straight up out of the ground, and then push it, turn it upside down and push it back into the ground. The This next section covers the First Nations Native American tribes of the United States. The first tribe being the Chickasaw tribe. The Chickasaw Nation passed on traditional stories of a giant, hairy, foul-smelling man that was an absolute lethal threat to the tribe. The tribe called this monster the Lofa, which meant filleter or skinner of men. The tribal legend would tell of a giant, man-like creature that would abduct women or children, to which they would never be seen again. I remember reading a lot of different stories about these things over the internet. They'd be like in Bigfoot forums or on some particular webpage, and some of them were stories that were coming from tribal elders that were, had more detailed stories about these attacks. And one thing about this was kind of really bizarre was these things would basically assault the tribe at night. They would come only at night. And when they did, they were reported to be wearing some kind of a basket. They were saying it was almost like a weave basket. And what these things would do is they would specifically come and raid the tribe at night and take children. And they would literally fill up their basket with kids and then stomp off into the woods. And I remember reading some stories that, warriors would try to chase after them and they would end up not coming back or never being seen again. So I remember that this particular tribe, there was a couple stories that really stuck out, and it was pretty scary, to think that this particular tribe had some horrible experiences with whatever, creature of Bigfoot that this was. It almost seems like there's multiple species of these things. There's some that are just benevolent creatures that are walking through the woods, and then there's things like these that hunt people and basically probably use them for food, I would imagine. The next report's coming from the Choctaw tribe. The Choctaw tribe told of a creature called the Shumpay. The tribal elders would tell of a creature that was huge and very dangerous. This creature was said to steal Choctaw women and was also known to be a man-eater. When the tribal warriors would attempt to track and kill this creature, it became very hard, next to impossible, due to the creature's horrible stench and that this would overpower the warriors. This next story is called the Stick Indians. Apparently there's a couple tribes called the Salish, the Yakima, the Lumi, and the Cayuse tribes. All had similar stories of a very large, hairy man-like creature that was known to be dangerous to people. The legend would tell of a creature that would kill and eat tribal members. The creature was said to be hateful and would take revenge upon anyone that would injure or disrespect it. It didn't matter if it was intentional or unintentional. These things would come back and track you and ultimately kill you. The creature was also known to lure tribal member victims at night by making eerie sounds or laughter in the dark forest. These creatures would also regularly take tribal children and women. Anyone taken by these monsters were never seen again. There was also reports that these creatures had some bizarre power to paralyze or hypnotize the victim. The tribes did not speak very often of these creatures, as just the mere mention or talk of them would bring an attack on a tribe. One kind of interesting thing I just noticed in this story was what they had said, that it had some kind of bizarre power or whatever to paralyze or hypnotize its victim. There's one thing that kind of stands out about that kind of rings true, is there's a phenomena called infrasound, and apparently like lions and other animals, in like say Africa or areas like that, they can paralyze their prey just by growling or emitting a noise that apparently it affects the other animal to the point where that other animal can't move or is just basically so fearful it's paralyzed. And I remember seeing a story on that, actually a couple documentaries too on infrasound. So with that being said, I did see quite a bit of reportings from Bigfoot encounters that people would say that when they hear the Bigfoot, screaming or yelling into the woods, that it would often like vibrate in their chest, and it would make them like just so struck with fear that they couldn't move. So it's kind of interesting that these stories from these tribes, they have that in there, and these are coming from hundreds of years ago. So that kind of rings true to me of these encounters that these sounds would make these people unable to to run or or to protect themselves. So whatever these stick Indians were, apparently that these things probably had that infrasound where they were able to basically paralyze the victim so that the victim couldn't get away. The next tribe is going to be the Shoshone tribe. They had some creature called the Tawapits. These creatures were said to be huge and lethal to any person that came into contact with it. Tribal legend tells that these things were descendants of a race that existed before the Great Flood. The creature was described as hairy giants that would hunt the Shoshone tribal members and capture them. The creature would carry a basket on its shoulder and place the people in the basket only to later eat the people. These creatures were said to come at certain times and take many people, and later have a huge feast in which they cooked a large group of humans. So, in this one, notice again, it's a completely different tribe, completely different location, but they also report that these things are carrying baskets and that they would, basically take the people and put them in this basket. This one, though, is it's kind of weird that they would take a bunch of people and then cook them all and have a feast. That's pretty extreme. One thing I wanted to point out about this particular story, I brought up kind of a weird and interesting subject, and that's the Great Flood. I was doing some research on this, and it's apparently tribes throughout the United States, they pretty much all have stories about the Great Flood. Obviously, we know that cultures around the entire globe have stories about the Great Flood. So, in doing my research, I was looking at that there was, obviously, if anybody knows anything about the Nephilim and the Elohim and the giants that once populated the earth that were man-eaters, it just depends on what religion that you believe in. But to sum it up, some of the stories were that at one time, the entire world was populated by giants that were eating people. So, in the end, to wipe them out, a great flood occurred. So to see a tribe, but all other stories too that I well from different tribes, is that these Bigfoot type creatures were descendants of these other creatures that were pre-flood. I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you or anyone you know has stories that they'd like to send in, you can forward that through our email to outpost31nightwatch@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. It's very important. Until the next